So did you hear that Buc-ee's just opened the largest convenience store in the world? I think 75,000 square feet I think it's in Luling, Texas. And I heard that you were the first in line. Going back to your home state.
Yes, I will tell you, I love me some Buc-ee's. I mean,
Have you been? How many Buc-ee's have you been to? Are you
I can't
ticking
even,
them
as a
off?
kid, I can't even count. I mean, so many Buc-ee's. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
so
it
weird
was,
because I didn't even know about Buc-ee's until the last couple of years when they started to come
it's
north.
an
I didn't even know.
incredible thing. I mean, if you were on any road trip as a kid through Texas, you stopped off at a Buc-ee's for sure. 100%.
So what's your favorite thing to get at a Buc-ee's?
Well, it was always candy. I mean, you would always go running up and down the aisles and get candy. I mean, there was candy everywhere. It was junk food. It's like the worst thing that you could actually have on a road trip is getting all kids all sugared up on candy. But that's what it was. You would walk out with a big brown bag of candy and then torment your parents for the rest of the ride.
That explains a lot. Dallas Cowboys and Buc-ee's.
That's it.
Now it's kind of Robert Rose's personality.
Perfect.
That's all we got.
That's it.
Just remember, everybody has your story to tell. Tell it well. Of this old marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This old marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for who? For business professionals. That's right, only business professionals. If you're not professionals, don't even worry about it. I'm Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 432 for Friday, June 14th, 2024. And with me, as always, as he always is, my pal, my colleague, and probably the most distraught guy that I know about the pending J.Lo and Ben Affleck separation, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
I'm really
torn up about it. I heard. Yeah,
I'm really torn up. Did you see? We talked about it. Did you see J.Lo's new movie Atlas? Did you watch this?
No one did. No one saw her movie. So I think this is part of the problem. No one saw this movie. Yeah,
I like J.Lo. I love
J.Lo. J.Lo's fantastic.
It's good quality music.
The world, however, seems to have lost their affection for J.Lo. I mean, because the unspoken yet obvious reason for her cancellation of her tour is not because she's having challenges with her husband and family, which is what the stated reason was, but it's clearly that they couldn't sell any tickets. There's a lot of artists that are out there on summer tours that sort of their eyes were much bigger than their stomach and have not been able to sell tickets. So there's been a lot of cancellations of tours.
And you've seen the memes going around about Ben Affleck being all upset that J.Lo's tour was canceled because he was hoping for some more free time.
Yeah, I have not seen that.
Yeah, he's really distraught. It's interesting to see, both of them. They're still superstars and celebrities, but they're not, A+ list like they used to be.
They're right. I mean,
B middle. It's hard. Like with Ben Affleck, it's really hard with Ryan Gosling and Ryan Reynolds to get in because your name's not Ryan. You're not A-list actor anymore.
That's right. Well, it's, Hollywood is a world for the young, for sure. It is definitely a young person's market. And so
I know nothing of any of that.
It is tough. It is tough if you are not a young person, right? And so yeah, for both J.Lo and Ben Affleck and, that whole generation, it wasn't, what was it, 25, the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s when they were both superstars, Ben Affleck, of course, coming out of Good Will Hunting, and then, of course, doing all of the things that he did, and J.Lo being the superstar that she is. And then, it's an inevitable arc of any celebrity as they get older. They just start, the roles come fewer and far between, and the concerts become more nostalgic rather than hits. And, it's an interesting it's an interesting challenge for those content creators.
But then it comes back because did you see Dick Van Dyke won an Emmy at 90? How old is he?
He's
in his
90.
90s.
He's 92, I believe, or something like
I
that.
thought even was older than that. But that's incredible. And he was still doing his dancing. I totally love Dick Van Dyke. I think that's just a fantastic
he's
story.
had an incredible career. Those are exceptions. You know, I mean, his, you know,
because he's alive. I mean, let's just put that. I mean, come on.
There's that. But there's also this sort of, you know, there is a real challenge and a real talent, let's say, for staying beloved, you know, because Hollywood is classic for that Batman quote of, you know, you can stick around long enough for you to become the villain, right? So the ability to stay beloved, you know, people like Dolly Parton, you know, Michael Keaton, you know, Dick Van Dyke.
Michael Keaton was blackballed for quite a long time.
Well, yeah, and he went through and he came back, right? I mean, he came back, and now he's, you know, he's back in, you know, in being beloved.
And he's Batman again.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves is another one, you know, a beloved celebrity who just everybody loves, right, and has loved for a long time. And they're really you know, there's only a few of those, and it's tough. It's tough to stay that way.
Well, as people watching this on our YouTube channel can see, I'm on the road.
Yes, that's right.
A rare occasion. I do not like like I do whatever it takes when we schedule this thing.
Yeah,
to make sure that I'm
Same
in
here.
Cleveland when we do it. It's just a lot easier. But you know, you
Yeah.
take the stuff on the road, you do what you can, whatever.
You-
But
yeah, you-
tomorrow I get to see the U.S. Open golf at Pinehurst, North Carolina. I'm very excited about this.
More boring than that. That is just absolutely.
What? Come on. You don't appreciate the athletic skill it takes to hit a small ball 340 yards.
I can appreciate the skill, but I can absolutely also appreciate the fact that it is so uninteresting to watch. It's like, look, here's the thing. A friend and family of the show, my colleague, Kathy McKnight, that I work with a lot in consulting, she did what you're doing for, I can't remember which tournament it was, but she and her husband went, and she came back, and I said, so how was it? She said, well, we stood standing, like we stood for 8.5 hours, because there's not like there's benches and places where you can sit and chill out. You just stand there. You just stand there, and you either follow one person or one group around, or you stand there and watch all the groups come through at a particular hole. And so they stood there for 8 hours, and she said her legs were killing her, and but she had a great time. And I'm like, I can't even begin to tell you how uninteresting that I am in that.
You would
that
stand
sort of activity
for 3 hours to watch your Cowboys play if you
Hell
had
yeah.
to, right?
Of course
wouldn't
I
think
would.
anything of it.
You're
What's the
absolutely.
difference?
There's no doubt. The difference.
There's no
the difference
difference.
is what I'm watching. Is what the difference is.
These things are the same.
They're not the same. They're not the same. Watching a bunch of sort of semi-fit, you know, dudes run around and play golf is, I mean, you know, whatever.
Hey, that's a misnomer. Like if you like Rory McIlroy, like Rory, I mean, these people they're in really good shape.
I know they're very good athletes.
They're not John Daly.
See, now here's the thing. John Daly is actually interesting to watch in a way, right? John Daly, and I know who John Daly is because I've, you know, I mean, I'm old, one, but two, you know, I've watched him forever. See, that's an interesting. I mean, if you're going to play professional golf, be that guy, right? Be the guy who's like smoking Marlboros out on the 18th hole with his beer belly and a good, you know, bourbon in his hand and smacking a ball around and cursing, right? That's entertaining. That's, you know,
I actually think that I wish professional golf had more personalities like that. You just don't have. I think you used to have more of those personalities when you had Ben Hogan and Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, and there was these
Lee Trevino. Remember Lee Trevino?
Lee Trevino, Chichi Rodriguez. You had some really amazing golfers, and you just don't have those distinct personalities anymore that are driving. Like Scotty Scheffler is one of the most incredible golfers I've ever seen, but Scotty Scheffler, I mean, you don't get a lot of emotion out of Scotty.
Yeah.
It's just It could
There
be
was
another guy. It could be another guy in line at Buc-ee's. It just really could.
right. There was a
But in
story.
Scotty's case, Scotty would take his car to the side and maybe
Nice.
go
Yeah.
around and almost run
Well,
over people
Yeah, exactly.
to get to the front of the line.
That's
at
right.
Buc-ee's.
There was a story about Lee Trevino. So, because here's the thing, I grew up with golf. I mean, when I was a kid, everybody in my circle, my friends, their dads, their moms, they all played golf. And I grew up on literally across the street from a golf course. And so we would play football on the golf course, and we would, go fishing in the ponds on the golf course and all that stuff. So I grew up around golf. And there was a story about Lee Trevino when I was growing up in the 80s that said that the way he got his start was, and this is probably urban legend. I don't know if it's true or not, but I love to think that it's true, where he was basically a greenskeeper for a golf course and challenged a bunch of golfers, businessmen golfers to a tournament. And he would use a shovel. He was going to use a shovel for golf, and they would be able to use clubs, and he beat them.
No way.
Yeah,
that is a great story.
It's a great story. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a great story.
Yeah, who knows? It could be.
Yeah.
And this is, and by the way, this is a special golf US Open Golf edition of
There you
this
go.
old marketing. So
There
for
you
the
go.
next 50 minutes, we're just going to talk about different
gonna
golf
talk
tournaments over
about
the years, and you're going to be you're going to be annoyed the entire time. Oh, we had a busy week, or we're having a busy week, it seems, in the news.
It is.
So what are we going to talk about?
It's a busy week. We've got a great show actually coming up. So because it's been a week of a lot of bitching. Let's put it that way. So we're going to talk about some of this bitching. Adobe really made a bunch of people angry with their new terms of service. They've since come out and apologized for that, but we'll talk about that and combine that with new rage that is going on in the creator community from Meta, especially in the UK. They've already announced it here in the US, but they announced in the UK that they are going to now start using images for the most part, but images and content to start feeding their AI and LLMs, and creators are ridiculously putting up posts saying you can't do that. And that's AI saying, well, yeah, watch us. Then we're going to talk about Apple, because of course they had their big Worldwide Developers Conference and announced a bunch of new AI sort of things. And we'll talk about what some of the things that they announced, especially on the agent or the type of, sort of task-oriented AI that may be coming to a device near you. Then we'll talk about, maybe it's not about the content. Maybe it's about something else. Really interesting article in Media Post that we'll talk about regarding where content and digital content stands in the world. Then we'll get to our wins and losses, or fails and wins, or successes, or whatever you want to call it these days. And I'm going to talk about
it this week.
Yeah, whatever we're calling it this week, basically, where we pick something, a big fail in marketing or a big win in marketing. And I'm going to talk about Joey Chestnut, the sort of champion hot dog eater, and what's going on with him, and a beef. See what I did there? A beef with Nathan's hot dogs. See,
yeah.
That headline did not appear anywhere, which was a totally missed opportunity, I think, for some writer somewhere. Anyway, and then you're going to talk a little bit about OpenAI and a win, I think.
Yes.
Then when we get to our rants and raves at the end of the show, I'm going to rant relatively strenuously about a new AI product and the sort of category of AI products that are starting to emerge with regard to content and marketing that I think are just ridiculous. And you're going to rave. You're going to rave about a book. I've got a new book,
suggestion.
So so a fun show while you're on the road, as it were. And let's jump right in.
See if we don't know if it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun for us. It's going to be fun for us. I mean, we'll hear afterwards from the audience whether or not it was fun for them. Anyway,
I guess
let's jump right into it here.
Let's do it.
With Morning Brew article coming to us courtesy of the Morning Brew. And although there are any number of mainstream media outlets that are reporting on this story, and the headline here is that Adobe uproar shows no one trusts big tech. The article opens up by saying an update to Adobe's terms of service from February sparked widespread outrage from its customers. Outrage, I tell you, highlighting the trust deficit between companies rushing to roll out AI features and the people who fear their content is unwittingly being used to train those systems. What happened, says the article? Well, Photoshop maker Adobe recently sent out this notification informing its users of updates to its terms of service that said, quote unquote, clarify that we may access your content through both automated and manual methods. And the language changed months earlier in February with screenshots being taken by those on social media. Of course, social media now sort of abdicating their role as professional epidemiologists and doctors and politicians, and of course now assuming the expert of lawyer, because they all had legal analysis on all of this. Adobe said it's really nothing. Just relax, take a chill pill, and then the audience said, no, we're not going to get relaxed about this because you're all jerks. And now Adobe has clarified its new terms of service and apologized for the way that it rolled it out. Couple this with an article that we'll cover from, there's a number of other places that are covering this as well, but we'll cover the AP, which released that says Facebook is now also facing outrage, or Instagram, or Meta, if you really will, about what's going on with its notification to UK users that it will now start using as part of a new privacy policy, their images, their content to feed the LLM that they are developing, of course, for AI. So what do you think, first of all? I mean, I have a strong take on the Adobe thing, but what do you think about Facebook and all these sort of privacy concerns?
Two very different issues, in my opinion. The first
of course,
one,
yes, very much.
The first one, you mentioned it last week about the rage economy that we have going on, and it just seems like, it's not like those terms and conditions were new. Somebody got a hold of them, put them on social, creates a big hubbub about, in my opinion, nothing.
Yep.
And then Adobe has to come out and do a mea culpa for terms and conditions they've had for literally forever.
Yep.
Because now, granted, were the terms and conditions unclear? Yeah. They could have been a little bit more specific, if you will. But this is absolutely nothing about nothing. And yet we have a whole group of people that work themselves into an emotional state that was unnecessary because, to your point about social media, that's what they do. So I thought that was ridiculous. Now, the thing about the Facebook and using the European training data and whatever else, they're going to do,
right?
Even if they say they aren't, they are. You're using a platform for free, which, what does that mean? It means you're the product.
Yep.
And why do we have expectations that it should be any more than that?
Right.
And I guess what I'm saying is that everyone that's complaining about this has unrealistic expectations about what Facebook or Apple or Google or Microsoft or any of these companies are going to do. So I guess what we can do is expect that next week and the week after and the week after that, there's going to be somebody upset about somebody doing something with content.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's exactly.
I don't know. What's your take?
Well, so very similar, very, very similar. So when we look at the Adobe example, the lesson here, the actionable lesson here, is that for years, one of the things that I have evangelized to clients is that marketing messaging is communication, right? It is clearly and persuasively and valuably communicating to your audience. The fail here is Adobe's assumption that all they needed to do was throw a legal sort of notification over the wall, which has been done since the 10s, right? In terms of new ways that you're going to be using this product and new things that you're going to happen with new features. So therefore we have to update our terms of service, right? That's happened since products began.
Yep.
In terms of the terms of service that you get whenever you buy a product, a warranty, or any kind of terms of service that you use. You gleefully click the checkbox. I've read the terms of service. I know what I'm doing here. You click it, you go, and you're into the software, assuming, of course, that you can't do anything about it. But then when Adobe takes the proactive notion of saying, well, here's what we're changing, right? Because I got that email too. I got the email from Adobe saying, hey, by the way, we've changed our terms of service. And, by the way, this is what it said. The fail here was Adobe not recognizing that this is marketing, that this is a piece of content that needs to engage, inspire, persuade, etc. So the lack of clarity here, the sort of letting the lawyers run it, is the exact wrong thing to do. Because I'm sure the marketing people, the PR people, whoever was sort of in charge of actually distributing this message, threw up their hands and went, well, it's the lawyers say it has to say this, so there you go. And what you need to realize is that in today's modern world, all of that is a marketing message. Any communication that you have with customers is a marketing message. And so thinking it through and thinking, how could someone interpret this or misinterpret this, as the case is here, right? Which is just totally went off the rails for them when it didn't have to. All right. So it's a PR fail that didn't have to happen. The second thing is and it sort of holds true with both Adobe, but this was also true with Google and Workspaces and Microsoft Office and, all those things, as well as your Facebook and, whether it's Meta, whether it's, again, Google, whether it's Microsoft, whoever it is. When you're thinking about putting content out into the public square, right, whether that be on their platforms, I'm writing a piece for this for CMI and that'll come out on Friday. And basically it reminds me very much, remember the scene in Fast Times at Ridgemont High where Sean Penn's in the class and he gets a pizza delivered to him. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Hand is like freaking out because he has a pizza. And he's like, you're running dangerously close here. You're running on my time. And Spicoli goes, well, wait a minute, Mr. Hand. If I'm here and you're here, isn't it our time? And it's like, that's what we as marketers are doing, right? We're going, well, our content is here and isn't this our platform? No, it's not our platform. It's their platform. They get to do whatever they want to do with your content. And the punchline that I said in the article is that it's funny in today's world with marketing and companies, the platforms, the Facebooks, the X, the LinkedIns, they actually have more rights to a company's content than the employees do actually posting it. In other words, they have more rights to do stuff, redistribute, create derivative works, do all those things with content being produced by the employees of a company than the employees do even themselves. So just swallow that irony and understand that they are not here for you. And you have to lean into that. You just have to lean into that idea in terms of what content you want to put out into the public square on their platform.
I think that in a lot of cases, I don't want to say PR is a lost art, but I don't know if some of these larger companies are investing as much as they should. Back in the day, one of my friends worked for a larger PR company in Cleveland, and they represented an oil and gas company. And they were telling me about the multiple websites that they've already created just in case these 7 bad things happen. And they were already done. Like they're already done. They had the wording and it said, if this happens, this website goes up, this release goes out, whatever. If this happens, and they already had it done. Like I was always under the assumption, and maybe that's already been done for Adobe, or maybe they didn't prepare that, but I would assume that any of these large software companies already have, okay, here's the 7 sticky spots in our terms and conditions. Here's what happens when anybody becomes irate, which will probably happen. Like, and they've probably done some statistical analysis to know, okay, these are the 2 things that'll happen first. Like, isn't that done anymore? I'm assuming it is.
Well, it's what you speak to is actually going all the way back. Right now, I'm going back 15, almost 20 years in terms of what we actually, as content strategists, what we actually solved for in many of those cases. Because what we recognized back in the day was that everything that comes out of a company from a content perspective is communication to customers. So when we were doing content strategy, we looked at things like, and I'm not even kidding here, we looked at things like invoices, like how were invoices worded and designed, how were contracts presented, how were, onboarding documents presented, how was all of the content being organized and utilized so that it complied and or aligned at least with brand, with tone, with voice, with all those things. And that has just, to your point, a lot of that has gotten lost over the years as content sort of gets put into a cubbyhole of, well, it's just marketing stuff, right? It's just all the marketing stuff that sales and marketing stuff, and everything else, all the other communications, we leave to quote unquote the professionals, the accountants, the lawyers, the IT, whoever it is that's sending it out, even our CEO, executive communications, all those kinds of things. And it's amazing how much of that stuff just gets sent out, just sent out without any review, without any sort of idea, simply because it's not marketing. That's actually, it's not considered a marketing communication, but it is. That's the point. It is a PR. It is a communication to your audiences. And you're absolutely right. It's a lost art. And there are content strategists out there in the world who can solve this for companies, but it seems like it's such a low, item on the totem pole. But this Adobe thing is the perfect example. This did not need to happen.
No, it's funny you mentioned that when we launched the Tilt, I really wanted to look at all of our communication when we sold something. And so on our invoices, I have right at the top, you just made the best decision of your day.
Right.
It's like I wanted that, like that fits within our personality as a brand. And I wanted that to come out, and we look at that, and you look at your signature lines, and you look at all those things where you're talking with customers on a regular basis. These are maybe the most important stakeholders outside of your employees that you have. So let's look at all that communication, and maybe we're focusing on all these other things, which are important, but we forget these really important things that we've been doing for so many years.
It's such an important thing. We used to put in, it's a little bit lost these days because, so much of it is handled by machines, and so it doesn't really matter. But we used to put similar nice little notes in invoices, at the bottom because we knew people read them, right? We knew people in accounting would read them, and those are our customers too. And, we would get notes back from the accounting person saying, "Oh, I really appreciated you wishing me a great day." And, and all, it's like, cause they don't get that, right? They don't see that in so often. And so one of the ways to differentiate yourself is to actually just take a little bit of time to say, reflect the brand and the content in all of the things that you're communicating with your customers about, or your vendors about, all those kinds of things.
But there's the marketing to do. Like, what are all the touch points? And you need to review that, because you add and subtract throughout the year. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to stop doing this. And sometimes we forget as marketing that's in our purview, that we need to look at what are the 15 touch points we have from when we onboard a customer all the way through. Whatever.
That's right. We give lip service to the idea of what we call customer experience, but really what people are asking for in customer experience is, how do I sell more or market more stuff, instead of how do I actually create a better customer experience?
There you go. So
we've
solved somebody's problem today.
Hopefully.
Maybe our own. Who knows?
Hopefully. All right. Hey, well, speaking of solving some problems, should we pay some bills?
I guess we should. Okay. Well, everything's on delay because I'm in the woods in North Carolina. So these ads may or may not work. Let's see what happens here.
All right. Let's take a pause. Take a deep breath in, then slowly exhale all the stress out of your body. That calm you're feeling right now? Well, that's what you get with HubSpot. Their all-in-one customer platform takes all the chaos of business and replaces it with one single powerful platform for all your teams. Generate better leads for marketing, close more deals for sales, and earn more 5-star reviews for your service. So don't hold your breath. Visit HubSpot.com to learn more today. You ready for another bite of a podcast? Well, try another bite. That's right, the podcast is called Another Bite. It's hosted by John Dick, Jory Monroe, and Ariel Boswell. Each week, they break down episodes of everybody's favorite business TV show, Shark Tank, offering their own unique thoughts, spin-off companies, critiques, and even talk with some of the folks who pitched the sharks and lived to tell the tale. From squatty potties to mensch on a bench and even that weird golf club you pee into, Another Bite takes a fresh look at some of your favorite episodes and even more importantly, answers those all-important questions, what are these entrepreneurs up to today? Follow Another Bite wherever you follow your favorite podcasts.
By Sona, was that Sona too? That music in the second one, Sona?
It was. Both were Sona. Yeah.
You should be getting paid. You should be like a representative of a paid influencer for Sona.
Well, hi. If there's anybody from Sona listening, I mean, I'm sure they've got bigger fish to fry than talking to somebody like me. But yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you're number one Buc-ee's fan.
Have you been to a Buc-ee's? Have you been to a Buc-ee's?
Never been to a Buc-ee's.
Oh. No. Here's the other thing about Buc-ee's that so as a kid you wouldn't really appreciate, but as an adult, they have amazing barbecue. They have amazing barbecue, which seems weird. It's a little bit like the Costco hot dog or the Costco pizza, right? Where everybody loves the Costco hot dogs and pizza. It's a little bit like that, but it's good stuff. People will stop for Buc-ee's barbecue. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was like when I went to Penn State and we had Sheets, and that's when Sheets started to become big. And I always said sheets of pizza. Like I was getting my sheets of pizza.
All right, let's get to our next big story here, which of course comes from Apple. They had their big worldwide developers conference this last week, and some big news. I think people are all excited about this. I mean, I'm seeing on my social feeds anyway, the sort of people are like, this is what AI is supposed to all be about. Anyway, so this is going to come courtesy of The Verge, although again, many of the mainstream tech publications are talking about this. And the headline is Apple Intelligence. So you see what they did there? Yeah. It's very funny. Okay. Every new AI feature coming to the iPhone and Mac. And it says Apple announced Apple Intelligence at WWDC 2024. It's named for a new suite of AI features on the iPhone, Mac, and more. Starting later this year, Apple's going to roll out what it says is a more conversational Siri, custom AI Genmojis. Oh boy, the emoji thing is just like, okay, anyway. And GPT 4.0 access that lets Siri turn to OpenAI's chatbot when it can't handle what it is you ask for. The company that once refused to use the term artificial intelligence when talking about its machine learning features is now, as best we can tell, catching up with just about all the table stakes features that Google, Microsoft, and others have rolled out in the last year. The company says the AI features will be available only on the iPhone Pro, 15 Pro Max, iPads Max with M1 or later chips. In other words, you got to buy a new phone, folks.
Of course you do.
Of course, right? Then the article goes on to talk about some of the new features that Siri is going to have and some of the things. I think the coolest thing to me, and I would love to get your take on this, the coolest thing for me were sort of the, I guess what it calls intent, sort of ideas where you go, hey, open up the podcast that my wife sent me an email last night, right? Where it will basically look to your email. It knows who your wife is. So it pulls that email, finds the link, and opens up that particular podcast. I think it's that, to me, having that level of assistant in on a device is what we've all been waiting for. I think it's the coolest thing. It's the thing that Siri doesn't do right now. So I don't know. What do you think?
At first it's funny because I was actually out golfing when Apple was doing this presentation, and I was golfing with Paul Reitzer, who's maybe one of the leading AI experts in the world. And we were listening to it in between shots as we were playing a scramble. And we were both commenting on there's nothing that we didn't expect here. Like there's no big, huge announcement. I mean, everything was sort of predictable, I thought, and maybe things that should have been, but maybe that's the brilliance about it. It's just things that now it's sort of this AI assistant, if you will, is baked into the phone. of course, you have to get the new phone, which I hate. I hate that whole thing. I hate what they did with the battery, and I hate what they
Right.
what they do with this, because I want to try out. I've got a 12 or something like that. I won't be able to use any of these things, and I definitely want to. I want to use the new photo features, which I think are incredible, which Google's had for a while. They're now adding those photo features. But the fact that if I can, for example, I go running with my AirPods, and there are some things that I want, if I want to open a different app, or I want to move to a different type of music, let's say it's not in my playlist or whatever. It's very hard to find some of these things. Sometimes Apple doesn't understand me, and I'm running. I get very frustrated. It seems that all these things will be solved because Apple knows I'm running. Apple knows I can't stop and open it. They can go and open another app, which they can't do right now. I don't know. They're going to make my life easier, I'm assuming. And maybe this is how it happens, right, Robert? It's just like when you now have almost everyone on Earth using these AI tools, it's just going to become almost like we talked about. Every software will have AI in it, and you won't be able to tell the difference between what is AI and what isn't AI.
Yeah.
I think this happens with our devices as well. It seems like it.
So it's a great point. And I'll make two follow-up points to that, which is, so there was a time, I think it was right around the 2008, 2009, 2010 time frame. And I don't know if you remember this. We talked about it on the show at some point in the early teens, where the idea was, so it was, I think it was Eric Schmidt actually from Google who said, at a certain point, the internet stops becoming a place and it just becomes ubiquitous, right? You stop thinking about it as a place that you go, right? It's just always, you're always connected. You're always there. And arguably we've gotten there, right? Where you don't think about jumping onto the internet, or you don't, you're just perennially connected, right? And this is the kind of thing where we would start to see that with AI as well, right? Where you stop thinking about opening up an app and do, like, for example, right now, the way my wife uses ChatGPT is she opens up her app, and then she's like, she's going to go jump on AI and sort of have a task and then get off of AI, right? At a certain point, it just becomes embedded into everything you do. It just becomes like you're talking to your calendar, you're talking to your email, you're talking to you're having a chat or a conversation with your apps, and they're doing things for you. And this is the first step in that. And the second point, which is related to that, which is, this is Apple's way, and what a lot of people fail to realize is how few people are actually doing this right now. We do it because we're inside baseball and we're marketing and we're business people and all of that. But the general world isn't using ChatGPT. They're not using Gemini, right? They're not even aware that all of this buzz is going on. They're just going about their daily lives. This is the kind of thing where Apple excels, which is actually making it functional into things that normal people, sort of people that are, we would call civilians or whatever you want to think about them, actually get into their, are actually useful. And this is what they did with the mouse. This is what they did with the graphical user interface. They were not the first. They were not the, they were not the innovator here. They were the ones who came in and made it consumer and buyer friendly. So this to me is a much bigger deal than I think, we'll look back on this very similarly to the way we saw the rollout of the iPhone and some of the, sort of the more interesting evolutions coming out of Apple. I think this will become a seminal moment in the world of AI integration into the people's lives.
Well, what's interesting too is I've always been slow to upgrade my phone. I've always had an older phone, and I always want, like, until this thing completely dies and doesn't work for me anymore, then I will upgrade.
Sure.
This is the first time that I actually want to get the new phone, which is exactly what Apple wanted. But even I was talking to my wife, I was saying, I love some of these new features, these photo things that are going on. I want to try this thing. I want to go this. And I said, I got to get a new phone. And she was totally surprised that this would be something that I'd want to do. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm surprised too. I actually want to, and I actually want to get upgraded AirPods as well. I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, the next thing I'll actually get an Apple desktop. That'll
But
be
here's
nuts.
well, let's all hope for that, shall we? Let's just we're all rooting for you on that score.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
So, but here's one other thing I'll just mention really quickly here before we move along, which is something that's not going as reported because it's very hard to understand, which is the infrastructure that Apple is actually building and partnering with OpenAI on here is going to be the easiest way to describe it is sort of these micro LLMs, right? Where apps, if you're part of the app developer ecosystem, you can develop apps that actually connect to Apple's AI intelligence to actually power some of your applications, right? So if you sell t-shirts, for example, right, you can actually have one that says, design me a great t-shirt, and it only knows t-shirts. That LLM only, so it's really small and it can fit within your app, but it can actually enable AI generation and integration with other parts of the phone. That is such a huge thing because now it won't just be like, only Apple Mail or only Apple Scheduling or only Apple Calendar or only Apple Photos has access to being able to use these tools. Now you theoretically should be able to say, hey, open up Uber, tell me when my, schedule something, put it in my calendar and go on and on and on and on, right? So you can actually integrate all these things together that's the way Siri should have worked, and it didn't. And this is really exciting, I think.
Well, if you want to use and create your own GPTs to do particular functions, you really have to work hard at creating these things. So this is the brilliance of what Apple has that almost no one else, maybe Google, but that would be it, where they are going to take your personal data and claim that they're keeping it private.
Exactly.
Let's just assume that they are.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that'll be able to build this thing, this little personal assistant that knows you better than anyone else because it has all your information.
That's right.
To build off of in this personal cloud, which I don't know the details behind it, but it sounds very attractive if they're able to do this. And I don't have to work at it. It already should have all my connections. It has my photos.
Exactly.
It has my calendar.
It knows you.
All these things. Yeah. It has access to my email. All these things I've already given it control over. Now it can totally do things that no one else has the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
So if you doubted it during the call on Monday, the stock price basically did nothing. The next day it was up 7%. The next day after that, I was up another 3-4%. So the street likes this as well because they're going to sell a lot more.
They're going to sell a lot more phones. Yeah. They're going to sell
absolutely.
a lot more devices with this. Let's be honest. That's the goal. That's the goal here. All right. Yeah. Let's move on now to our wins and losses, fails, wins, basically hits, misses, whatever you like to call it. This is where Joe and I speak of a particular marketing item from the last week that was a particular success or particularly unsuccessful, and just talk a little bit about it. And would you like to go first? Because
mine is right on the end of this one because my win is OpenAI. That they for however they work this deal with Apple, which is hard for me to wrap my head around because 49% of OpenAI is owned by Microsoft, and I never thought Microsoft would do a deal with Apple. But here we are. ChatGPT is going to have this integration with Apple, and it seems like this is going to be a long-term deal. That they were able to get this. I really don't know who's paying the money. I'm assuming OpenAI is paying the money for this opportunity, similar to the way that Google pays Apple $28 billion a year to be their search engine of choice.
Well, that's ding, ding, ding. You win. Yeah, you win you win, right? That's the answer here, right? Microsoft looking at it going, how do we get Apple to pay us money? There's your answer, right?
Well, the big loser in all of this at the same time is Google. Like they already had the partnership with Apple and how they couldn't get Gemini this opportunity that ChatGPT does. So, I mean, the big, huge, you talked about, you're going to look back on this call from Apple as being transformative. I think that this is what takes OpenAI to be the clear, absolute clear leader. I mean, they already were, but they've got a lot of competition specifically from Google in this. I mean, the folks at Google Gemini have got to be just like, I can't believe we let this one go. What a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and to be clear, they're still negotiating for some things. There's still negotiations going on with Apple and Google over AI oriented things. So we'll see what ends up coming out of it. But it's clear that Google has been focused in on their core business of search with AI and how to make, things findable and all that, whereas OpenAI has been much more around how do we make things more conversational and personal assistant like. So it makes sense when you sort of look at it at the macro. But we'll see. We'll absolutely see. I tend to agree with you. I think I can't believe that Google let this opportunity slip by, but we'll see where they end up.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you got?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about Joey Chestnut. So for those of you who don't know, Joey Chestnut, so in the most American of all American things, Buc-ee's, here we go, rest stops. So Joey Chestnut is a world champion eater, I guess would be so every 4th of July, Nathan's Hot Dogs for, I don't know, however many years, I'm going to say 20 years, and it's been a long time, has had a hot dog eating contest on July 4th, Independence Day here in the US. And Joey Chestnut is he's the Tom Brady of this contest, right? He has won so many times that he has become a bit of a celebrity because of it. So people know, and he wins all sorts of other eating contests as well, eating pie and all sorts of things. And it's really gross and whatever. But so anyway, he's become a celebrity of sorts. Well, the news comes out this last week that he has signed a sponsorship deal with Impossible Meat, which is, of course, the alternative to meat made with it's grown and
heme or whatever.
Yeah, it's artificial meat basically. And he now has this sponsorship partnership with Impossible Meat. And Nathan's has basically said, no, you can't participate, because this is content marketing, obviously, for Nathan's, always has been content marketing for Nathan's. They have this contest, and then they have this thing, which is the Professional Eaters League or whatever it is, where they create this every year. And according to the reports, and of course, I don't have any inside baseball on the negotiations, Nathan's had agreed to his fee, which of course he now charges a fee because he's such a big celebrity. And so he's an influencer that the content marketing team or whatever it is at Nathan's pays to say, come show up, and everybody else will show up, and we'll have a big event, and the TV news will cover it, and it'll be a wonderful thing. So they agreed to his fee. But what they said no to was that he can't wear t-shirts and he can't be sponsored by another competitor. This is a huge fail in my book. I think if they could have basically, let him compete, leverage him, let him be a sponsor of the other thing. Let him be sponsored by the other thing. Why do you care, right? Why do you care if he's wearing your t-shirt, he's showing up at your event, and he's a big celebrity? It actually shows and demonstrates that he actually is there for you. You don't lose anything. There's no net loss here in letting him be sponsored by someone else in your contest. You obviously get to basically adjudicate what he says. It's not like he can throw an ad up for Impossible Meats while he's there. He probably will in side interviews, and he probably will off to the side wear another t-shirt, etc. But man, do I think this is a missed opportunity for Nathan's to just say, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. We're good with it. So I just think it's a big fail.
It's interesting. I've seen this happen in the event industry where a big sponsor will come in and they'll say, we don't want this company attending. We don't want this company sponsoring. And I'm like, and whenever I hear that, I'm like, that you do not understand how you can build a competitive advantage if you're just saying, oh, I want to be exclusionary with this thing, and I want to be nitpicky about this thing.
Well, that's exactly
I was actually I was surprised. I was surprised that no, I actually think that they'll come to terms. But when you read the article that we'll put in the show notes, they're really making Joey Chestnut and the event that runs the Nathans, they're making Joey Chestnut look like a big evil person in this whole thing. Like, oh my God, how could he do that? We've been so supportive, and we had an agreement with him and whatever. I don't think he broke any terms. it doesn't seem like Joey Chestnut broke any terms.
He didn't have a contract, right? He didn't.
But he has a contract to do the show, to do the hot dog.
That's right.
Contest.
He doesn't have a sponsorship contract or anything like that. He's got basically a contract to get money for showing up and doing the eating,
showing up
right?
to the event. Yep.
And so, I mean, bad on them for not getting a bigger, broader contract with him in the preceding years. But two, to your point, why wouldn't you, game on, bring the competition, but make it all a competition, right? And it's just, it's so clear. And this is such an important lesson for us as marketers. When, to your point, you have these events, these vendors who come in and say, I don't want my competitor. I want exclusivity, right? I don't want them there. It's like, no, yes, you do. You want them there. You want to compete with them. Because it raises the visibility of your entire category at the event. If you're competing with them there, now it's just game on. You've got to be better than them. So what you're saying is, by not wanting them there, that you're scared of them not being anyway. It's just a silly thing.
They probably are scared.
I'm sure they are, but it's ridiculous to be scared because anyway, Anyway, so okay, let's move on quickly to our rants and raves here, where Joe and I will go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave that makes us feel like Ben Affleck. I don't know. Maybe I should.
I've never felt like Ben. I don't know what Ben Affleck feels like, but I've never felt like.
You've seen the memes of him, right? Sort of the sad Ben, right? Outside smoking a cigarette, and all that kind of thing. So that's makes us feel like that, or makes us feel like we're somebody else from the nostalgic celebrity 90s. Anyway, so let's see. Do you want to go first?
Yes,
here?
Real quick. I definitely want to save some time for your rant. I believe, because it's very important. But this is just a quick little rant. If you can see this one coming on, to see that book there. Can you see that?
There you go.
There it is.
It focuses. Yeah.
This is called Infectious Generosity from Chris Anderson, and Chris he runs the TED event series, if you will, and basically it's TED's values and how TED became TED in a book. And the underlying thread that I'm picking up as I read this is we don't see enough value in giving things away for free. And we talked about this with our content creation and distribution for a long, long time, is the more that we can strategically give things away, the better it becomes for the brand, the company, the content marketing initiative, and whatnot. And I always thought, even when we were starting Content Marketing Institute, that we did a really good job of giving a lot of information away for free to build our subscriber base, to have Content Marketing World become what it was. And then I go through and read this, and I said, I don't know if we ever did enough, or if there's better opportunities. And that's why I want to recommend the book. Is I think it gets you thinking about how we're creating content and distributing that content, and maybe we need to rethink some of those things so that we can get our content, our messaging, the things that we're spending time on, and our value in the hands of more people by lowering the friction. So anyways, love the book. Big fan. It's a good story as well. If you don't know the story of how TED became TED, because when they went did all the TEDx stuff and basically gave the brand away, there were a lot of media critics to that and said, oh, you have to control it, you can't give it away. It's just almost like what we were just talking about. And Ted's done a great job of giving it away to their audience and building an even more powerful brand by doing it. So
I'm gonna pull on my slight cynical hat here and go, I'm gonna read the book for sure. I'm absolutely gonna read the book, but
maybe it's not possible for all brands to do this.
Well, it's not that. It's just that infectious generosity, giving away things for free is not what I immediately associate with the TED brand. So I'm going to have to read the book and actually get much more informed on this. So,
well, I mean, think about it real quick. So there's the one example of it. So take any media company, and then TED in this case, and then say, anybody who wants to launch an event using our name can do so, and we will help you get that off the ground. Nobody does. I mean, who's done that? outside of some associations
It's not
and chapters.
quite that
and-
easy, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
I'm just saying, TED has, I think they have 10 employees or something. I mean,
They
they're
do.
also not
It's
for
small.
profit.
Yeah, it's small, and they they have marketing programs. They have content marketing programs. They have a whole speakers bureau now where you can get them to come show up at your company and pay them $1 gajillion, and they'll have TED speakers come and under the TED brand and give your employees a talk. I mean, they've productized the heck out of it. And look, no criticism there. It's been an amazing business. On a per employee level, it's definitely a case study in terms of how to set up a new oriented media company. I'm just not sure that.
Let me know, like in a couple
I'm
episodes.
very curious.
I want to hear the rant.
I'm very curious. Okay, here's the rant. Really quickly here. So,
okay,
this is a press release. What we're going to link to in the press release in the show notes is a press release from a new company. AI, shocking. I mean, I know that's shocking that there's a new technology company focused on AI that's going to send out a press release saying, "Hey, we have this new capability here." I'm not going to say the company's name here, but obviously, if you go link to the press release in the show notes, so if you're curious about who this is, then you can go find it there. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Not because I'm necessarily trying to protect them or anything like that. I just don't feel it's necessary to throw them completely under the bus. Although I'm going to throw them slightly under the bus here.
Sounds like it.
This new company has been around for a little bit. They've had some products, but the new press release, as they say, is that their new product is basically an AI content marketer in a box, is what it basically is. It's basically you have an automated content marketer on your team immediately. As the lead of the press release says, this tool is designed to support businesses in maintaining a persistent digital presence by efficiently managing content creation, management, and publishing without the overhead associated with large marketing teams. So basically, this thing is built. The entire point of this tool, from the positioning of this press release, is to avoid needing marketing teams altogether, right? That's their point. That's the way that they've messaged this. I didn't say that. They said that. At the heart of the functionality, they say, is this proprietary technology that they have, which is a multi-agent system, which basically allows you to create SEO optimized blog content, craft customized social media posts, and basically to operate continuously 365 days a year, 7 days a week, with minimal human oversight once the initial guidelines are implemented. In other words, once you put the initial guidelines of what content you want in there, it, quote unquote, and I have not seen this in action, it will research, write, create, edit, publish, and actually distribute your content to social media, all with no or little, as they say, human oversight. We've talked about this on the show before, the idea of news sites starting to emerge that are completely driven by AI agents, right? Where all they're doing is spitting out article after article after article after article after article after article, and creating this automated news sites. This is that for marketers, for B2B marketers, for B2C marketers, where you can basically program it to do everything that literally a content marketer would do automatically. And that's the benefit. Now, here's the thing. At its face, I hate this because it's absolutely doing the thing that we shouldn't be doing, in my opinion, which is basically spewing out more and more content with the belief that it doesn't matter what the content is or how it reflects what it is we believe in or what it is that's actually human about our business. And rather, the only reason you're spitting out this much content automatically is because you're A, trying to save money by not hiring people, or B, trying to spit out so much content because you, quote unquote, don't have time for content that you think it'll somehow improve your marketing results. I dare say neither of those things are true, although they make the claims in their marketing that it will give you 90% ROI, which is okay. I don't even know what that means, but
nobody knows.
There you have it. So the thing I hate the most about this, because actually, when I look at a product like this, I can actually see a use case that is valuable for a business here. And really what sort of grinds my gears, to use the the Peter Griffin sort of term, is not that they actually built a tool that does this. My problem with this is a broader problem that I have with the way that AI marketing companies continue to market themselves, not reading the room. They just are not reading the room right now. CEOs, I have no doubt, many CEOs and businesses are right now looking at how can I cut headcount with AI, right? And I've talked about, and in many of our client engagements, we talk about building use cases for clients. And most of the use cases that the pragmatic team that's actually doing the work, most of the use cases that are coming out of UI, the really valuable ones, are not about cutting headcount. And in fact, they're mostly about adding resources or adding headcount because of the cool, new, interesting things that can be done with Gen AI, including, by the way, some of these automation tasks like translation and localization and being able to add audio to your, to your text content and imagery and all sorts of things. And so when I see this, the first thing I have is sort of throw up in my mouth a little bit about the positioning here. Like, it's just like, this is just bad marketing. To me, it's bad marketing because they're not reading the room. What you're basically saying is, hey, marketers, would you like to buy our tool that will put you out of a job? Because that's what we're marketing to you. And the same holds true for those AI companies that are out there going, it's magic. Auto-magically create your content with no human oversight or little human oversight at all, because that's what we do. We put marketers out of jobs. And so if you're going to market this to a CEO as a, sort of a Bob and Bob sort of from Office Space sort of idea of like, what do you really do all day, Mr. Marketer? And we can put in a bot that's actually going to do what you do every day because it's just as valuable. Fine, but it's not going to work. Instead, if you're coming after marketers and you're saying, well, I'm going to put you out of your job and I'm going to put you out of your misery because all you need to do is turn this machine on and it'll spew out average content for the remainder of time. It's just not only a bad idea, but it's a really, really bad message. And so it's just really annoying that this is where we are with AI marketing right now, because they're already doing a bad job of this at OpenAI, at Google, and in many instances, Microsoft, et cetera, in terms of reading the room of where the marketplace looks at value right now. If I had a use case for this, if I were marketing this product, I'd be like, hey, how about automatically creating the customer documentation of our help docs, right? Where this is content that it's a drudge to complete and nobody wants to look at it. We need to create all these different versions of it. And if we had something that automated that process, that would be great, because we could focus on our creative energy elsewhere. But focusing this on writing differentiated content sort of automatically 24/7, 365 and targeting it to marketers is just a bad idea.
Well, maybe they went a little bit too extreme in the messaging. You could have just, if they're targeting small businesses, right? They're not targeting enterprises, are they?
No, they're targeting enterprises. $2,000 a month for this thing.
Oh, okay. I've got nothing to say.
Yeah, it's $2,000 a month. That starts at $2,000.
Well, it still could be a smaller business. That's not like an
no, it's not. It's not a $1 million purchase or anything. So. But it's ostensibly saying for $24,000 a year, get what you get out of a content marketing person, which is, I
don't know. It's yeah. I think that a little tweaking of the marketing, that's where they need your help, Robert. A little tweaking of the marketing.
This is my point. This is my broader point, right? It's like, this is one company, one release, one idea here, but it's so reflective. It's just a sort of it's an extreme example of what I see broadly going on in the marketing AI world right now, which is they're just messaging this. And by the way, this is not new. New technology often does this. New disruptive technology often does this. When I was way back 24 years ago in the early 2000s, we used to market content management, enterprise content management. And the way we used to do it was, quote unquote, empower your business users. Your business users want to manage content on your website and publish content to your website, which was just an awful message. It's just an awful message, because guess what? Business users don't want to be empowered. They want to rely on specific skilled positions like content people, marketing people, creative people to write and publish content. The other people, the executives, the other business users, they didn't want to mess around in the CMS. But we thought that was a great message without really reading the room. And once we started to read the room, we started to go, okay, this is really, it's not about democratizing content management across an organization. It's about how do you handle sophisticated workflow and collaboration in a marketing organization. And messaging changed greatly to what you see today, basically.
Yep. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But I guess it has me thinking of, if I'm a marketer today, I am looking at all the value that I bring to the table and make sure that I start building things, qualities that I have that cannot be AI'd, if you will. Like what's some like how do you build a moat around your expertise? That's what I would be looking at right
That's
now.
right.
I don't have an answer for all those things. You saw the post.
The broad answer is you make your marketers the hero. If you make people the hero of that story. So this is the big fail in my mind of this particular product is they're making themselves the hero, right? They make them. So it's like, okay, I start autonomously producing content 24/7, 365, and it still doesn't work for my marketing. Now what? I turn you off. There's no stickiness built into this. There's no empowerment. There's no stickiness built into this solution at all. Their churn rate, I guarantee you their churn rate is going to be super high on this for many of their customers who just don't know how to give it the right guidance, don't know how to actually use the tool and actually use it in ways that aren't intended in noisy marketplaces and won't work. And so they've given you no reason to be empowered for the team of why you should stick around, why you should be loyal to this thing.
You did the Workday campaign, didn't you? Where Billy Idol said, "You're a rock star." That's yours.
Great campaign. It's a great campaign. By the way, it worked very well for them. Yeah,
I've had some people, just talk about that one. I rarely have just regular people that like that commercial. I was like, regular people, as in not marketers.
Yeah,
so
that's good stuff. All right, what do you got? So you're gonna go do some boring stuff. Yeah,
I'm gonna be watching boring golf. I'm gonna be watching boring athletes hit a boring white ball, a boring 340 yards, and it's just gonna be horribly boring. So, how about you? What are you doing?
I'm busy with client work. Working with some really cool companies now as a fractional marketer and really enjoying rolling up my sleeves. I gotta say, I'm really enjoying the work. So, if there's anybody out there who wants to,
I'm enjoying not doing the work. You're enjoying doing the work.
Yeah, exactly. Not doing the work. If there's anybody out there who needs a fractional marketing guy, I'm waving my jazz hands now.
I am not not your guy.
No. But I am. I am looking for yet another client to fill my dance card, as it were. But working with a couple of clients now that are just really enjoyable to work with, and I'm truly enjoying the busyness and rolling up my sleeves and getting into their analytics and getting into their content processes and getting into their brand and their story. And just really, it's been fun. It's been, I forgot how much I really missed the detailed work.
Good. I do not, but I'm happy for you.
Yeah. Well, you can go watch boring golf.
I will. I'm going to do that right now. I'll see you next week.
Okay, fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, they and them, all of you out there who are our wonderful audience, please take care out there and have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we will see you again next week. And when we see you again next week, well, before then, just tell your story, right? It's your story. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing. Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.